How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down Podcast, the show where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Today, in episode number 230, we are back with our final mock draft on the offseason, Bear Down Mock Draft 4.0. We are a mere 24 hours away from the start of the 2021 NFL Draft, and we are here today to bring you guys our last mock draft. I would like to say before I introduce myself and my co-host, if you are new to the channel and want Bears content every day of the week, we are back. Foot to the pedal, full gas. I don't know. We're coming hard with videos. I don't know what I was trying to say there, but if you want Bears content every day, do us a favor. Drop a like and subscribe. And if you're listening on any of the podcasting platforms, do us a favor and follow. We will be live streaming on YouTube tomorrow the entirety of the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be going live, the three of us. So be sure to join us for a Q&A, giveaway. Some special guests will be joining us to help us cover this draft. So it should be a good time. So be sure to join us. But today we've got Mock Draft 4.0, our final mock draft. Definitely an important one. I am your host, Chris Malpe, today to break this final one down. And this offseason has flown. I can't believe we are already here. I am joined with both of my co-hosts, Parth Shaw and Jaylen McClinton. Guys, we are 24 hours away from this draft, but we've got one more mock to go through. How are you guys doing, and how anxious are you guys feeling about tomorrow?
I'm anxious. I'm scared to see what Ryan Pace is going to do in this draft. There's a lot of ways the Bears can go. They can go and trade up for a quarterback. They can stay put and maybe hope a quarterback falls, or just take a tackle, or maybe a corner. But the Bears can go any direction. Ryan Pace is someone who makes last-minute decisions, or will make those moves if he feels like it needs to be at that moment. And I don't know what we're going to do. I've got a mock for us that I think is pretty likely of what can happen tomorrow.
Jaylen, how you feeling about tomorrow, my man?
Definitely nervous. Like now with the draft, since I be on Twitter a lot, I'm kind of nervous that people are gonna to spoil the pick for us, especially since we're live streaming. So hopefully none of that happens, but definitely a lot of anxiety. See what Pace does, especially since we haven't had a first round pick in 3 years. So definitely excited to see that happen, and that's about it.
All right, well, let's hop right into this. We've definitely got a lot to go through today. There are three very good drafts here, I would say, all in their own perspectives. Some of us traded down, some of us traded up, some of us stayed put. So let's hop right into it, and let's start in the first round. I'm going to start with my pick, and no surprise to anyone, I'm going to do what I want Ryan Pace to do tomorrow, which is trade up. I made a trade with the Carolina Panthers. I dealt them a first and second round pick this year, as well as a second and fourth round pick in 2022 to acquire the 8th overall pick in this year's draft, where I selected Trey Lance, quarterback out of North Dakota State. This is definitely an interesting one. I would probably, in this situation, normally prefer someone like a Justin Fields, but Trey Lance is not a bad second option whatsoever. This is probably assuming that Mac Jones went 3 to the San Francisco 49ers, but you know what? Lance, the athleticism is there. I do believe the throwing mechanics are there, and I believe he needs a little bit more fine-tuning, but he only played one game in 2020, 149 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, but he exploded onto the scene in 2019, his sophomore season, with the North Dakota State Bison. 2,786 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 0 turnovers the entire year. In a 180.6 passer rating. Look, I think this is someone that could come in, could sit behind Andy Dalton for a while if need be, or possibly be the immediate starter and hopefully solve Chicago's problems. If the Bears are trading up for a quarterback, the guys who I would like to slip down to them are Trey Lance as well as Justin Fields. I think it's likely that one of those guys do. There's going to be a couple teams that are going to want to pull the trigger to move up. We don't know what Detroit's going to do. Denver got Teddy Bridgewater today, so it seems like they're set, as well as the Panthers. So trading up to 8 or 9 seems pretty likely if someone dips down. Detroit at 7 is an interesting one because they could still do a lot of different things with that pick. But if someone falls to 8, I do think the Bears are going to be one of those teams looking to move up, along with the Washington football team as well as the New England Patriots. And they could even move up higher. We could see them move to 6. Trade with the Miami Dolphins. We could see him move to 4 still and trade with the Atlanta Falcons. So there's a lot of which ways this could go. But if the Bears do trade up and one of these guys falls, I would be totally cool with it being Trey Lance, preferably Justin Fields. But I think Trey Lance is a great pick here at 8, even though I did lose my second-round pick in this year's draft. So I'm going to pass it down to Parth now. He stayed where he was in this first round, ended up going with a strong wide receiver in the first round. So Parth, take it away.
Yeah, I think all the other mock drafts I've been in so far, I've traded up, so I decided to, make a twist and not trade up this time around. I don't know if the Bears are going to trade up tomorrow. I feel like it's getting less and less likely, and I wanted to make a more realistic.
I almost feel like it's getting more and more likely.
Really, I guess I was just trying to make more of a realistic mock, and like the most realistic.
That makes sense.
Most realistic option is just sticking at 20, I guess, and just taking the best player available. And I thought that was Rashad Bateman from Minnesota. He had 472 yards last year, 2 touchdowns. Remember, the Big Ten didn't play as many games.
I believe 8 games last year.
Yeah, so, he only played in 5 of them, so he didn't play much. He had 13 yards per catch last year in 2020. In 2019 was his big year, obviously. In 13 games, he had 1,219 yards, 11 touchdowns, an average catch of 20 yards per reception. So he's got what it all takes. His biggest weakness is speed, but I feel like with Darnell Mooney that makes up for it. But he's got the best release package out of all the guys I think in the draft. He's got one of the best footwork. He's got the hands, one of the best hands. He's got what it takes to become a good NFL wide receiver like Allen Robinson is. Just the guy who sticks around for a long time and can put up numbers. And if Allen Robinson leaves next year, I think Bateman could take over and put up some big numbers going forward.
Yeah, Rashad Bateman's definitely an interesting one. Personally, I'm not too much of a fan of taking a wide receiver this early, only because we know Allen Robinson will be here in 2021. Someone that I do think won't be here in 2021 by some point, could get traded in the next 72 hours, is Anthony Miller. So as we go down the board, I know Jaylen and myself around the 4th round take a wide receiver. Someone that could possibly fill in there at wide receiver 3 and be a good complement to obviously Mooney as well as Robinson, but solid pick nonetheless, Parth. Now, before we get into Jaylen's pick, I would like to say it's probably quite unrealistic that this player falls here, but a reminder that these are all computer simulated drafts, and you never know what could happen. There were a lot of surprises last year. So Jaylen, take us through your first round pick here, Mac Jones, quarterback out of Alabama.
I took Mac Jones out of Alabama. I stayed put because of how the draft board fell. In my draft, Justin Fields went number 3. In my personal opinion, he probably should go number 3 in real life, but he's probably not. So, and then, Trey Lance didn't go till 15 to the Pats. So, Mac Jones was able to fall to us at 20. Like Chris said, probably unrealistic at this point. If you would have asked us like this 2 months ago, I wouldn't be surprised if he was actually there, but he has gained a lot of hype. And it's fair. I obviously won a national championship, they're one of the best teams at their quarterback position. So, my thing with Mac Jones, he's probably not my first option. My first option is definitely Justin Fields. For realistic options, that's not named Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson. Mac Jones was surrounded by an amazing offense. This season he played with the Heisman winner in Devontae Smith. He played with Jaylen Waddle. Had an amazing offensive line, and was able to play with a lot of top offensive prospects. Now coming to Chicago, he's probably going to sit behind Andy Dalton for a couple weeks. Might start towards the end of the season, but he's not coming to that type of offense. Obviously, he has Allen Robinson, who's a top 10 wide receiver. Darnell Mooney, who's a rising star. He's going to play with Cole Kmet. Obviously, a top 10 running back in my opinion, and David Montgomery. But this is coming into the NFL. You're still a lot that he needs to adjust to. But if he's able to follow us, and we don't have to trade any draft picks and still get a very solid quarterback that's not very athletic but is very accurate, and that's the only thing we was really missing out of Mitchell Trubisky was accuracy and consistency. So definitely a great pick in my opinion.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you guys. It seems I just have a very hard inkling that the Bears are going to go quarterback in first round. Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy know if they screwed up this year, their time in Chicago is probably over. I don't think they can sit there in the draft room, in the war room, and say that Andy Dalton is the answer. And there's some great guys in the second round. Tom Pelissero earlier today said even up till this week, the Bears are still doing extensive work on David Mills, Kellen Mond, and Kyle Trask. And I like all those guys. But I don't know if you can sit there and say that one of those guys that could be a positive project in the NFL is going to make it or break it for 2021 if it's not Andy Dalton. So me and Jaylen both went quarterback in that first round. I think realistically they would have to trade up for one, but it should be interesting to see what Chicago does tomorrow night. Man, there's going to be a lot of people in the city happy, a lot of people in the city sad, depending on what happens. So
in Chicago, you can't make anybody happy at the same time.
Yeah. Let's head into round 2, pick 52. I obviously traded my second round pick away in order to get Trey Lance, but Parth and Jaylen both stuck with it in the second round. Parth makes 2 picks in the second round. We'll get to his second one a little bit later on. But let's take a look at this second round pick. Offensive tackle seems like a position that the Bears need to address this offseason. Parth and Jaylen, you guys both made the same pick. A very solid pick as well. Someone who played with Trey Lance the last couple of years at North Dakota State. We've got Dylan Radunes, offensive tackle out of North Dakota State. So either of you want to take it away, talk to me a little bit about this pick.
Yeah, so Radunes played left tackle for the Bisons. He's basically a plug-and-play starter. I think the Bears can start him at left tackle, if we drafted him. It would obviously take over Charles Leno's role. I don't know if the Bears would put Leno at right tackle or keep Fetty there or put Bars there or have no idea what direction they want to go. But I think, Dylan would take over that left tackle position as he's, I think, a lot better. His strength is actually the run game, so that would help David Montgomery out if anything. And we know the Bears are going to have to run the ball a lot next year, so I think that would be a really good pick in that way. And he needs to gain a little bit more weight. I think he's a little bit slim. I think I'm a little bit over 300 pounds. But if he can be a little bit, it would definitely help out his frame. He's going to be a monster, if anything.
Yeah. I think this is a really solid pick. We saw David Montgomery get top 5 rushing yards in 2020 behind an offensive line that was probably still pretty putrid. They held it together the last half of the season, I would say, after having some COVID issues and stuff like that. But I think this pick would be very solid for the Bears, adding another good tackle that can come in and play. It's definitely a need that needs to be addressed at some point. And if the Bears go quarterback in the first round and possibly don't have a second round pick, it could be pretty tricky to address that position. So Parth and Jaylen both went with the Dunes in the second round. I think that's a very solid pick. Now things get very interesting. You saw me and Jaylen, both take quarterbacks in the first round. Parth, you have to take one, but we've got a trade here. The Chicago Bears have received the 66th overall pick from the New York Jets in exchange for 83, which is the third round, and 208, which is in the 6th round. Parth, take me through this trade and tell me why you think this trade up and this pick makes sense for Chicago.
Well, we needed a quarterback, obviously, since I haven't taken one yet. And Kellen Mond, in my opinion, was the best option available. I think Mills from Stanford was still available, but I'd rather have Mond personally. I think Mond has a lot more upside. Got a quick release, throw the ball deep. He can throw the ball in tight windows. He can also move around in the pocket really well too. So that's something that's underrated of his game. He also beat all of Johnny Manziel's stats. I think in the 4 years he was there at Texas A&M. In 2020, he completed 282 yards for 19 touchdowns and for only 3 interceptions. So, he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. And he also is productive in the run game, like I said. I think and he also played pretty well in the Senior Bowl, so I think this would be a pretty good pick for the Bears. I don't see him starting right in the start of the season, but if Andy Dalton does start off pretty bad, I could see Mond coming in around week 8.
Yeah, that's a solid pick. The only worry there for me, as I said earlier, he's someone who could be a positive project, but isn't going to guarantee get you production right when he steps on the field like someone like a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields could. So that's a little interesting. Let's head into the third round. Still a great group of players as we head down this board. I'm going to go first with my pick. Brady Christensen, offensive tackle out of BYU. I think Christensen could be one of the better picks in the entirety of this draft. I think he's really being slept on. He's someone who's really agile, has great movement skills, does a good job handling edge defenders, and is someone who would fit perfectly schematically in an offense that implores power running scheme. And we've wanted the Bears to give David Montgomery the ball a lot more throughout history. He's also someone who can be a swing offensive tackle. You can put him at right or left. And I think he's going to be a very good player in the NFL wherever he ends up. So Brady Christensen, offensive tackle out of BYU here, was a no-brainer for me. I obviously went quarterback in the first round, hadn't picked anything since then, but I think this would provide great value at pick 83 for the Bears as an offensive tackle. Jaylen, we see a little bit of a discrepancy at safety for the Bears. They did bring back Deshaun Gibson on a one-year deal. You'd have to imagine he isn't going to be around forever. Deion Bush, someone who once again is waiting his shot, and then you've got Eddie Jackson and DHC as well. But adding some depth there wouldn't be a terrible idea. Parth, it's a name you're going to recognize. But talk to me a little bit about Jamar Johnson out of Indiana.
Also, I probably could have traded back into the third round and get him. Possibly, complimentary picks, traded back there to take a safety. But like you said, Eddie Jackson has not had a consistent running mate, since Adrian Amos left, 3 years ago at this point. Clinton Dix that, had a decent season with us, but obviously that didn't work because we had Eddie Jackson out of position. This season, Tashawn Gibson was, solid for, what he was here for. He was on a 1-year veterans minimum deal, and I think he let the team in interceptions. But like you said, he's up there in age, and we gave him another 1-year contract, so we don't know how long he's going to be around. And so I took Jamar Johnson. Obviously, like you said, a name Parth is going to recognize. He was, a very good player on that, a very good Indiana defense. He was able to get 2 interceptions on hopefully a future Bears quarterback in Justin Fields in the game that he played them. So just a very solid safety prospect that can come in and play alongside Eddie Jackson.
Yeah, let's head into the fourth round. Fourth round, 164. Fifth. Well, taking a look at the later rounds, this is where Ryan Pace has hit on a lot of players in the past. Someone I've talked about that I would still love the Bears to pick is Amir Smith-Marset out of Iowa, but another great Big Ten receiver that I think would provide great value down here. Parth, once again, you're going to be happy. It's Whop Philyor out of Indiana. He's someone who is pretty small. He's 5'11", only 181 pounds, but I think he's got a very good NFL comparison. His NFL comparison is Kiki Cutie. And taking a look at someone who could possibly replace Miller, I think there would be if I could bring in a player like QT to end up replacing him, I think that would be a solid replacement. He's someone who plays in the slot, similar from Miller. He's got huge burst, similar to Darnell Mooney. He plays larger and tougher than his size. He can also play as a returner or a running back, as he did for the Hoosiers last year. He's had a little bit of health issues. He's gotten dominated at the catch point throughout time and gives away his angles and cuts. But you know what? I think this would be a solid pick here at 164. He's got great football IQ. He protects the ball. And he can do a little bit of everything. So someone that Matt Nagy could bring in and get some very solid production out of. Parth, I'm sure that's a pick that probably makes you happy.
Yeah. I mean, Matt Nagy could do so many things with him. Obviously, we are in need of a returner right now, so he could take over that position. He can run out of the backfield, like you said, and he can create a lot of space. And him and Darnell Mooney on the same side could be a problem for a lot of defenses. I'll say that for sure.
Absolutely. The only thing that does worry me a little bit about that is if he's healthy. The Bears did just bring in Marquise Godwin, who's another speedy guy with a little bit of health issues in the past. And we'll see how that plays out as well, because we haven't really talked about that in the podcast. But I think that's an interesting addition for Chicago as well. But Parth, let's head into your next pick in the fifth round. You continue to load up on the offensive line. So talk about another Big Ten player here.
Yeah, staying with the Big Ten, I take Kendrick Green out of Illinois. He's born and raised in Illinois. He's from Peoria, so he's coming home to the Chicago Bears. He was a 3-year starter with Illinois, Fighting Illini. He's played guard and center, so he offers experience at both positions. And the Bears always get plagued with injuries at offensive line. I feel like or some poor play from someone or some guys at that position. So if something can happen, Kendrick Green can come out and play some pretty good offensive line for us. He definitely has starter potential. I see him becoming a starter next year I think at the furthest if we drafted him. He's got a lot of strengths. He's really good at getting off the line. He can create some impressive contact. He forces the guys off the line pretty fast, and he's also another good run blocker. I feel like we need to do everything for David Montgomery and beef up that support for him because if that quarterback play isn't as great, we definitely need to run that ball 20 to 25 times a game. So.
All right. Well, I talked earlier about how me and Jaylen later on in this draft, we're both going to go with some sneaky wide receiver picks that were very underrated players. So I obviously went with Whop Phillier, but Jaylen, talk to me a little bit about Jaylen. It might be actually Jaylen. It's spelled a little differently, but Jaylen Darden out of North Texas.
Yeah, so I've been a fan of like you said, I don't know if it's Jaylen or Jaylen because I know a lot of people who spell it like that and it's Jaylen, but I also know a lot of people spell it like that and it's Jaylen. So for right now, I'm gonna just say Jaylen because that's my name. Probably one of my favorite, diamond in the rough type prospects. He's also very small stature. He's 5'8", 5'9", 175 pounds on soaking wet. But he's very fast, very quick, and what's the word I'm looking for? Elusive. If you can get him the ball in open space, it's highly doubt corners are going to be able to catch up to him. He's the all-time leading receiving yard. He's the all-time leading receiving yard leader in North Texas history. We need talent on the offensive side of the ball. He can play in the slot, like you said. He's very short. He's also good friends with Darnell Mooney. So if we can, bring him in, at the 5th round draft pick, we've seen with our last 5th round draft pick was able to do, and Darnell Mooney come in and basically become our second wide receiver over Anthony Miller, who we traded up to take in the 2nd round. I definitely if we this could be like our Tyreek Hill. I know we said last year Darnell could be like a Tyreek Hill, but Darnell's a little bigger than Tyreek Hill is. But this is definitely more of a comparable type player to Tyreek Hill in this Matt Nagy's offense, where you're getting a small, elusive guy that can play a lot of positions, can play out the slot. He can probably play out the outside. Definitely play on special teams as well, like another gadget guy on that offense for whoever our quarterback is at the start of the season.
Yeah, and that's really interesting that you bring that up because you and I both went with similar wide receivers in this round.
Yeah.
Players who are gadget players who can play quickly out of the slot and kind of both Anthony Miller replacements if you look at it at a certain perspective. So Parth's Wi-Fi went out, so he will not be here for the rest of the video, but we'll still recap his picks. But let's head into, I believe, the 6th round now. The Bears have a lot of picks in this round, 4 picks overall in this round. And this is another one that I absolutely love, that I was able to snag late, that I actually think could make an impact on this team. Jacoby Stevens, safety out of LSU. We talked about the safety situation earlier. In 2020, Stevens had 63 tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, 4 pass breakups, 3 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. A little bit of weird stats for a safety. He's not really the type of coverage safety that you would expect, someone like an Eddie Jackson. His NFL comparison is actually Malcolm Jenkins. He excels at playing in the box. He was used almost as a linebacker at LSU with the Tigers last year, and even took some snaps against Mississippi State as a lineman. So he's someone that could bring in, the Bears could bring in, allow Eddie Jackson to do his thing, playing deep. Stevens was actually someone who had a lot of first-round hype on him before, struggling a little bit last year, but I think he's someone who could come in, develop a little bit, assuming Eddie Jackson is going to be here, get some action down the road, and let Eddie Jackson do his thing roaming around as the free safety. So the pick totally makes sense to me. Parth also went with a box safety in Jamie Sherwood out of Auburn. Jaylen, you went a little bit different here. Obviously, we don't know the future in Chicago for guys like Akeem Hicks. Among that defensive front, the Bears have been great at producing defensive linemen, edge rushers, great stuff like that throughout time. And Jay Rodgers is gone, but I'm still confident with the guys they have there, Bilal Nichols, Eddie Goldman, Akeem Hicks, that they'll be able to continue doing that. So talk to me a little bit about your first 6th round pick here, Jonathan Marshall. And it doesn't have to be a ton. We're in the 6th round now. Oh, you're muted, my friend.
Bro, why does my mic keep getting muted? My fault about that. But I want Jonathan Marshall out of Arkansas. Like you said, obviously Akeem is been one of the most consistent players on the whole team in general for the last 4 or 5 years. Definitely, thankful for a lot of stuff he did, especially when the team was bad, and finally get that recognition when he earned his Pro Bowl nod back in 2018. But like you say, he's getting up there in age. Hasn't been able to stay healthy the last 2 seasons. And he's also, I think this is last year of his deal. If I'm correct. But this is not a person that's gonna instantly replace Akeem Hicks' production, who's been a very great pass rusher, very great nose stuffer, run stuffer, excuse me, as well as on that front seven. But just some depth, like I said before. It's never too bad to have a lot of front seven depth to come in and be a rotational type piece. He's not a very good sacker. He only had 1.5 sacks in his whole college career, but definitely a great nose stuffer. I keep saying nose, bro. Great run stuffer on that front side.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I've got a defensive lineman as well. At 208, Jonathan Cooper out of Ohio State. It might just be Ohio State guys that are intriguing to me, but he's got a muscular frame and an NFL body, has the physical traits that could generate a strong power rusher in the NFL, and that's intriguing to me, someone who could sit behind Khalil Mack for a little bit. The issue is he lacked really providing a lot of production at Ohio State, wasn't able to do much. So that's a tough one as well. Jaylen, I don't know if you really want to talk about it, but if you would like to talk about your 208, talk to me a little bit about Zach McPherson.
Just a corner that we obviously, we let go of Kyle Fuller, which was a hard move to make, and we have Desmond Trufant, Jaylen Johnson was probably going to be that number one, as well as Kendall Vildor, Duke Shelley, and some other. I think we brought also back Artie Burns back, but this is a 6th-round draft pick. Probably another development type piece. You're not even guaranteed he makes the roster, especially with all the the cornerback pieces we have right now. But just some depth.
Yeah, a solid pick right there. I've got one more pick I want to talk about, and it's my 221. And this was an absolute snag this late. I got Alaric Jackson, offensive tackle out of Iowa. You know me, I'm biased towards my Iowa players. But one thing I do know, and one thing that no one can deny, is that Iowa consistently produces some of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. Jackson is a long tenured starting tackle for one of the best offensive lines in college football, a college football factory for offensive linemen. And I do believe that he has the baseline traits to be a solid NFL offensive lineman, whether that be a backup or one day a starter. He has bright flashes on vertical releases and is good at downfield blocking in the run game. So that's definitely a pickup that would be great at 221. Just going to quickly run through the rest of these picks because they don't matter a ton. Parth at 221 went with Cole Van Lanen, offensive tackle out of Wisconsin. Jaylen went Drew Dahlman, center out of Stanford. And then with our last picks, we went Robert Jones, offensive guard, Middle Tennessee. Christian Uphoff, safety out of Illinois State. And finally, Jaylen's last pick. Good pick. Very good value here because I obviously watch the Hawkeyes all the time. Chauncey Golston, edge out of Iowa. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning into our final mock draft. Definitely our best mock draft all around, I think.
I think we went first. I don't think I did a mock draft this year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think I did the first two with Zach, the third one with Parth, and then you. But, hey, a good time to hop on. And we're just 24 hours away outside of the NFL draft. So if you guys want Bears content every day of the week and continuous coverage of this NFL draft as it spans over the weekend, wherever you are listening right now, do us a favor and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube as well, do us a favor. Drop a like and also drop a comment down in the comments what you want the Bears to do tomorrow night with that first-round pick. Should be really interesting to see where they go, and hopefully Ryan Pace can hit on some of those late-rounders as well. If you want more content from us, head over to our website, beardown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs, prepping you guys for the NFL draft tomorrow night. There's a ton of great people that work hard behind the scenes for us, so be sure to go check out our website if you've got some time and see some more of our content. If you would like to find the podcast on social media, you can find it on Instagram and Twitter at Bear Down. That's where you can see previews of special guests we're having on, enter our giveaways that we try and do a couple of times a year, and also give us advice on what you want to see, because we definitely want to be posting podcasts, episodes of Uncut, and content that you guys want to see. And finally, you can find the links to all of our social media pages down in the description myself, as well as Jaylen and Parth, our Instagram and Twitter pages. Be sure to check us out. Give us a follow. You can see our thoughts on the entirety of the National Football League as well as Chicago sports. Just another great way to interact with us. Jaylen, we've got one more video coming out, probably going to be our draft special before the live stream tomorrow night. But things are really accelerating here. Before we know it, we're going to be in the summer. The Bears are going to have 7 or 8 new players on the roster in training camp, and we're not sure who those guys are going to be, but they can surely make it or break it for how the 2021 season goes. Any last words before we head into this thing?
Oh, this is going to be the last time, probably last time, that you see me in this room. I moved on Saturday, so probably going to miss, most of the day 3, but I can probably watch it on my phone or something. So after this, I'm about to go pack, and can't wait for the draft tomorrow. Watch the Bulls and some Sox. So that's about it.
I'm sure you're as stressful as anyone could be right now, just with everything going on.
Moving sucks, bro.
Yeah, no kidding. And I have to move in and out of college, and I hate that. But I haven't had to move from house to house since I was in 3rd grade. So a long time ago. But, I'm sure Ryan Pace could make your life a lot more stressful depending on what happens tomorrow, or a lot better depending on what happens tomorrow. So we shall see. The pick is almost in for the Chicago Bears. We're 24 hours away. Guys, once again, thank you so much for the support. Continue to show us the support. We're going to continue to get videos out for you guys. It's been a pleasure to be your host once again. My name is Chris Malpe, and Bears fans, be patient. The Bears are on the clock officially, and as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 2021 NFL Draft live stream, and that's pretty much it for us, guys. We'll see you then. Peace out.